Contemporary architecture. Some historians have named Armenia the land of wandering capitals. This is due to the fact that Armenia has had 13 capitals throughout history. 11 of these capitals were located in the Ararat Valley. The reason for the constant changes in the location of the capital could partly be attributed to the devastating wars, the internal affairs of the country, and other factors. The last capital of Armenia is Yerevan. Geographically, it is located at the northern latitude of 40 degrees 0.8 minutes and eastern longitude of 44 degrees 10 minutes. It is located in the northeastern part of Ararat Valley. It has an area of 265 kilometers squared. The population of Yerevan is 1,265,000 according to 1989 record. It is 865 to 1,390 meters above sea level, extending from the south to north. Yerevan is surrounded by mountains in the northwest by Arakat Mountain, in the east by Kerama mountain chain, and in the northwest by Mount Ararat. Yerevan is one of the oldest cities of the world. Archaeological findings testify to the rich past of city Yerevan. At the right bank of the river Hrazdan, archaeologists have found more than 20,000 tools and artifacts in the Stone Age's cave. These tools include stone cutters, spears, arrow tips, and others. We already mentioned the Urartu Kingdom, Erebuni, Teshaba fortress cities, which have been in existence starting from 4,000 years ago. A significant event in the history of Yerevan in 1950 to 1959 was the excavations of the Arin Pert. Among the archaeological findings were the 23 cuneiform tablets, which relate the architectural and building activities of the Urartu kings. The most notable of these tablets is the one about the founding of the city of Erebuni. The tablet says, "By the help of the god Khald, I, Arkishti, the son of Menua, built this impenetrable fortress and named it Erebuni, as a symbol of power of kingdom, Beyaina, Van, and a threat to the neighboring countries." The tablet is signed by Arkishti, son of Menua, great king of the kingdom Beyaina, the ruler of the city of Tushpa. The first Armenian records which we have about Yerevan belong to the early 7th century. We learn about Yerevan from the name of a representative from Yerevan who was attending an ecumenical meeting in Devin. He was called David of Yerevan. In the 15th century, the Ararat Valley became a prefecture and the center was Yerevan. Starting from this period, Yerevan is recorded in history as the capital of the Ararat kingdom. There are few stories about the origin of the name of city Yerevan. According to legends, Noah's Ark descended on Mount Ararat. Noah looked towards Yerevan and saw dry land, and he exclaimed, "Yerevats," which means "I can see" or appeared. Another group of experts think that name Yerevan originated from the name of the last king of Yervantian dynasty called Yervant. However, the archaeological excavations of Arin Pert refuted the latter hypothesis and proved that the name Yerevan has originated from Erebuni. In Armenian history, the name Yerevan is recorded with the following variations: Yerevan, Irevan, Arevan, Irvan, and Irvan. Yerevan has been a habitat since deep antiquity. After Erebuni, the city was relocated to Mukhattapa, now not too far from the railway station. Until the 19th century, Yerevan consisted of 3 parts: the citadel, city, and suburbs. Contrary to Armenian architectural traditions, only the fortress of Yerevan was protected by ramparts. Turkish Ferhat Pasha built a fortress in 1582–83 when Yerevan was under the rule of the Turkish Empire. It was built at the southeastern part of the city at the left bank of Hrazdan River, where the Armenian cognac factory Ararat is found today. The fortress has an area of 30 hectares. From one side, the fortress is protected by the gorge of river Hrazdan. and the other sides are surrounded by double-walled ramparts made of clay. Inside the fortress, the palace of the Khan is found, the mosque, and other buildings. There was also a secret passageway from the fortress to the gorge. The city consisted of three main regions: Old Yerevan, Kont, and the mine area. Old Yerevan, or the Ararat Armenian area, was located northeast from the fortress, and Kont on the hill found on the left bank of river Hrazdan. At the southeastern part of Kont, the village Dorakyuk was located, which then was joined to the city. The third area was called the mine area, located at the southeastern part of the city. The village of Cholmak was at the east of the city, which later on became part of the city and was called Nork. The first plan of Yerevan was established on December 23, 1850. In 1863, the Astafian, now called Abovian city, was built, which connects north to the city center. The architect Mehrabian drew a plan for the city of Yerevan in 1906 to 1911. Part of this plan was used by the great architect Alexander Tamanyan. Alexander Tamanyan was born in 1878. He began his career as an architect during the years of 1904-1906 in St. Petersburg. His first architectural work was the reconstruction of the Armenian church in St. Petersburg. Until 1923, Tamanyan lived and worked in Russia. His architectural works still stand in St. Petersburg and Moscow. In 1923, Tamanyan was invited to Yerevan, where he began the most productive period of his career. He drew a plan to rebuild the city of Yerevan. The Armenian government in 1924 verified this plan. Tamanyan personally supervised the construction of great architectural structures like the Alexander Spentiarian National Building of the Opera and Ballet Academy, as well as the government buildings of the Republic Square. Alexander Tamanyan wrote that the city should have green streets and parks, which would be like the lungs of the city to clean the air. In 1934, Tamanyan started to sketch the plan of Big Yerevan, which unfortunately he did not get to complete. Later on, during the years of 1939 to 51 to 70, the plan of the capital was revised, but the principles of Tamanyan were preserved. Remaining faithful to the traditions of the Armenian and Tamanyan architecture, several magnificent architectural structures were erected in the 1950s, like the Science Academy building, the Zavatnots Airport, the Youth Palace, the Hrazdan Stadium, the Sports Concert Complex, the Vin and Hrazdan Hotels, the Ring-shaped Park, the Library of the Ancient Manuscripts, Parliament House, the railway station, the Sundukian Theaters, the Yerevan City Metropolitan, and many others. Some early medieval monuments have been preserved in Yerevan, like the Church of Avan, built during the years of 591 to 610, and St. Catholic Church, where some of the wall inscriptions were made in 1229. One of the medieval churches of Yerevan is still functioning today. This is the Church of St. Zoravar, located at the center of Yerevan city, at the intersection of Saryan and Pushkin streets. This church was destroyed and rebuilt many times during history. At the beginning, the chapel and the tomb of St. Ananias Apostle were located here. Catholicos Movses Suneti decided to establish a monastery once he became Catholicos. He chose the location of St. Anania Chapel, and by the monetary contribution of the inhabitants of Yerevan, built a religious complex which consisted of church, chapel, monastic cells surrounded by ramparts. The St. Zoravar Church is a tri-nave basilica church. It is 9.3 by 11.6 meters rectangular structure. At the eastern side of the church, the semicircular altar is located with two vestries. The main hall is divided by two pillars into three long halls, with the central one being the widest. At the western side, there is the arched parvis which supports the 6 columns of the bell tower. The St. Catholic Church is located on Abovian Street. This church is interesting since it lacks the architectural traditions of the Armenian churches. For example, the masonry of the central part of the eastern wall is different than the other walls. During the reconstruction of Yerevan in 1936, according to the plan of the city, the church had to be destroyed to construct other buildings. When the church was being pulled down, another medieval church was discovered, with very valuable inscriptions dating back to 1229 and 1284. The discovery was very important for the history of Yerevan, since this newly discovered church was the only structure not affected from the earthquake of 1679. The St. Catholic Church was built at the end of the 17th century. Other churches of Yerevan city are St. Paul's Petros, St. Jacob, St. Asvatetin in Kanaked, St. Sarkis, and St. Kevork. Yerevan has undergone many constructional changes in the past years. New suburbs have been built, like Taftashen. Bridges were and are still being constructed to connect various parts of the city to the center. An example is the bridge Hrazdan and Taftashen Bridge, shortening the distances between the uptown areas. Yerevan is still growing and developing. Different constructional projects are on the way to improve the city's appearance.